Hello and welcome into the Box Out Podcast. It's your host, Jayden Taylor. Thank you for tuning in and listening. I always appreciate each and every single one of you that tunes in to one of these episodes. So today on the Box Out Podcast, I will be talking about my preseason MVP pick, and with the regular season getting underway this week, I will preview some of the opening week matchups. When we get to that, I will debut my first reoccurring segment here on the Box Out Podcast, and that will be JT's Special. Think of it like a 3-course meal of bets on this week's games. I'll talk more about that later when it comes up. I'm not going to talk about this much, but I do think it's worthy to mention that James Harden's still not at practice. At this point, there are reports that the 76ers are preparing to play the Bucks on Thursday without Harden playing. Now, I wonder if Harden's plan is to hold out to start the season, because under the CBA, if he holds out 30 days into the season, he will lose his ability to bolt as a free agent next summer. The Sixers will have to approve any move that he tries to make. So I wonder if Harden, if his mindset is, I'm going to hold out to start the season, give the Sixers 30 more days to trade me. But I wonder if those 30 days go up and he's not traded, if he plans to return back to playing for the Sixers. Certainly, he could get moved before then. That would actually resolve the mess. But Steve Ballmer is playing hardball because he knows nobody is bidding against him at the moment. Plus, if we can be honest, their roster kind of stinks besides Kawhi and PG. Obviously, I think they will be a playoff team, but the biggest other asset they have are Norman Powell and Terrence Mann. The problem, as I've discussed before, is that Ballmer doesn't feel like he should have to give even Terrence Mann, because nobody else is banging on the Sixers' door for Harden. Daryl Morey is a tough GM who turned Ben Simmons into James Harden and should be given credit for that. Unfortunately, we couldn't see it at the time, but all that did was trade poison for poison. GM nightmares have been Harden and Simmons the last couple seasons. Meanwhile, Joel Embiid's tooth continues to grow longer, with right now only Tyrese Maxey as his only real sidekick. Things are at a horrible stalemate there. I can't wait to see how they resolve, though. Now, with that tidbit out of the way, let's get on with my preseason MVP pick for the 23-24 season. Cue the music. Now, it's time to unveil my pick for this season's MVP before Game 1 is even played. But before I name who I'll place my bet on, let's unravel this a little, shall we? This season's MVP award is a bit of a toss-up, I think, for me. I think you might find others who feel that as well. It doesn't feel like it's just there's one obvious front runner. It's not a diss to any players, but when arguably the top two players in the world already both have MVPs, 2 of them to be exact, it doesn't make it as obvious. Well, let's start with the case for Jokic. The man is serious business. He is the reigning champ, and last regular season, and maybe more importantly to Denver, his last postseason was amazing. Jokic averaged 24.5 points last regular season on 63.2% field goal percentage, 38.3 from 3, 11.8 rebounds, 9.8 assists, 1.3 steals, and 0.7 blocks. All impressive numbers, and all numbers that he could probably top even coming into this season. This part doesn't matter, but I just want to point out just how historic of a postseason we just watched Jokic have. And so if you add up his total points, rebounds, and assists, together, that makes 1,059, which was good for 5th all time. The top 4 is LeBron at number 1 in 2017-2018 with 1,146. Shaq was second with 1,133 in 99-2000. Duncan was third with 1,089 in 02-03. And then Charles Barkley is at 4th with 1,066 in 92-93. Again, not that it affects the MVP this season, but at the same time, that shows you the level of company he was just in the last time we saw him on a basketball court. Likely, the joke coming into this season is that he only probably cared about his horses during the off season, and maybe to some degree that's true. I mean, he did just win an NBA championship, played a lot of basketball. Maybe he didn't want to play basketball as much, and he doesn't seem as hooper as maybe Kevin Durant is in the offseason. But at the same time, he did just win the championship, and I do think he'll be ready to play this season. In years past, I think a bigger concern for Jokic is that the inevitable, the veteran superstar won't get up, quote unquote, for the regular season as much. They won't go as hard. They'll rest. They won't get a top 2 seed, which used to always be where you could find the MVP winner, by the way. Researching this segment, I found that actually the last 3 seasons, the MVP winners have been outside the top 2 seeds. Jokic winning it twice and Embiid last year winning it as the 3rd seed. But before that, you have to go back to Russell Westbrook in 2017. And before that, Karl Malone in 1999 has the 3rd seed, even with a record tied for the best in the league. Before him, Jordan in 1988. As you can see, it has been a trend, but in recent years, maybe it hasn't mattered as much. So maybe people's definition of the MVP has changed, but Jokic, I don't think, will be much different from last season, only improvement, if anything. I think he's going to come back and put up another great season, and on DraftKings, he is plus 450 right now to win the MVP. I think the only other case you could seriously make at this moment has got to be Giannis Antetokounmpo at plus 550. Tatum, maybe. Jason Tatum of the Celtics has a longer shot at plus 800, or maybe a super long shot, at least according to the odds makers. Devin Booker at plus 1,800 or SGA at plus 1,600, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But I think they both would have to have insane seasons and lead their teams to higher seeds. For Booker in particular, let's just make the arguments real quick. For Booker, he may need time without Durant, I think, to make that case. Durant gets an injury. He takes over for him, leads the team 30 points, the whole get up, and they get a high seed, and then maybe that storyline emerges. And for SGA, I think it's more so, can he put up 30 and 10 and also win games as well? And also, are there other teams falling apart around him, and he's maybe the shining bright there? Maybe it might be a bit too young for him, I don't know, but he's clearly going to be the main reason why the Thunder will win games this season, like myself and many others have predicted. So if you want to throw some long ball odds on one of those two guys, I get that. But to make the case for Giannis, I don't really think it's going to be about the numbers for him. I mean, last season he had incredible numbers again, 31.1 points per game, 55% from the field, only 27.5 from the three, but that's no surprise. 11.8 rebounds, 5.7 assists. He's also going to chip in with 0.8 blocks and 0.8 steals. If he had a copycat season like that, I think that it doesn't really make a difference whether he gets 33 points, 31 points, 29 points, whatever it is. Giannis, I think he has to make an impact defensively for his squad this season, because we all know they substituted more offense in place of good perimeter defense in Jrue Holiday. But I expect the Bucks to move back in some sort of way defensively from last season. But can Giannis keep the team in the top 12 or just float somewhere around the better half of the league, closer to the top 10? I would love to see him more matched up with other superstars more often as well. I know in previous years he's been used more off the ball as a defender and then helping, but stick him on some good scores for some stretches and see if it doesn't make life more difficult for some players. I will say, if the Bucks come out and he looks like one of the top 2 players in the world and maybe the best player, and they get a top 2 seed, you got to feel good about Giannis, because I do think they will care more about the regular season maybe than the Nuggets. But overall, I kind of feel like teams don't care as much about the regular season as they once did anyways. The league is trying to correct that, and we'll see if that works out. But besides that, I think that is the case for Giannis. With that said, my pick for this year's MVP heading into the season is Nikola Jokic. I just think that he has the momentum right now coming into the season, and it's his to lose, basically. And the NBA GM survey, overwhelmingly the pick for MVP was Jokic at 43%. Behind him, for reference, was Giannis with 20%, Tatum 13%, and Luka 10%. He makes his team so much better offensively. I can't see how the Nuggets won't continue to flourish this season with a 100% healthy Jamal Murray to enter the season, which, by the way, they didn't have this time last year. He was coming back and working through the kinks for about half the season. Someone will have to outseed Jokic, out crazy stat line him, and also have the media narrative. It's a boring pick, but Jokic is far from a boring player, and so I think he will win next season's MVP. Up next, the debut of my first reoccurring segment, JT's Special. I will talk about it, how it works, and what 3 locks for the opening week there will be here on the Box Out Podcast. Now we will debut our first reoccurring segment, JT's Special. Now, this is going to be a segment for me to highlight 3 of the most interesting matchups of the week, and I will tell you what odds to take in those matchups. With the beginning of the NBA season starting Tuesday evening, the day you guys are most likely listening to this, I will include the 2 opening night games so you can get into the action immediately. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Denver Nuggets are the first matchup of the NBA regular season. That one will be at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. The Lakers are plus 4.5 underdogs, and this one plus 170 on the money line. And I think that you should take the plus 4.5 spread. I think opening night, the games will be close, at least in that one. And I think that LeBron, he should be as fresh as he should be to start the beginning of the season. And so even if they don't outright win, I think they'll keep it close. So plus 4.5 there for the Lakers on opening night against the Nuggets. The second game of the NBA season will be after that one, the Phoenix Suns taking on the Golden State Warriors. This one will be at Golden State. It's at 9 o'clock Central Time, and the Suns in this one favored by 1, and the money line is minus 115. I think you got to take the minus 1 there for the Suns. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Beal all healthy and should be good to go to start the season, and so I think they will be better than the Warriors this season, and I think they'll get the win, and that's all they have to do. They don't have to do it by any number bigger than 1, which is what you have to do to win the game anyways. So give me the Suns minus 1 there against the Warriors on opening night. Then our last matchup of the week that we are talking about here on JT's Special, it is the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. That one will be at 6:30 p.m. Central on Thursday. The Bucks are favored minus 5.5 in that one, and you got to get the Bucks in that one. The Sixers without Harden, we don't really know what they're going to look like, and of course we don't know necessarily what the Lillard Bucks will look like, but you have to imagine that with Giannis and Lillard will be enough to overpower Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey and company, at least to start the season. I'm not very high coming into the season on the Sixers. I am high on Tyrese Maxey, but just the duo of Embiid and Maxey doesn't lead me to believe that they're going to have a better season or be better than the Bucks. So I got to take the Bucks here at minus 5.5. So with that, that'll conclude the box out here today. I appreciate you guys for listening. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to the last segment there, JT's Special, as well as my pick for MVP. Please follow the podcast on Instagram at the Box Out Pod. Give us a like and a follow there. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Give us a good review there. Thank you, and cue the music.